Hello, everyone. Happy Tuesday to you. It's a Football 360 show coming at you live on X and YouTube. Go ahead and like and subscribe on both of those platforms. You can catch us live. Would appreciate it. And you can listen to the podcast on Spotify or Apple as well. And, of course, all things Football 360, you can find football360show.com. I'm JP Rock. Matt Bierman is in the house. Just
Ready to roll.
All chill. He was here.
Ready to roll.
He was supposed to go live by himself. But...
Yeah. We'd love to see how that works out.
So, how's it going, man?
Good. Just really in that deep part of the spring where there's a lot of stuff going on. I mean, our daily activities at the facility, it's a lot. We got, couple, 300-400 kids playing flag football right now. We have, kids training and developing. See a couple hundred kids a week of doing training. And then obviously all of our other things going on at the facility. So it's and then sprinkle a little 7-on-7 traveling out of town for that as well.
Yeah, it really is a busy part of the year. And I think a lot of people that don't, do what we do realize. If you're a parent, you realize because you're hustling to get your kid, where it needs to be, for everything. Make sure that they're on the road with coaches like yourself and other 7-on-7 guys and that.
Yeah.
But it really is something that everybody needs to pay attention to. And things are coming up that you better have been working all this time, whether it was with 7-on-7 or you better have been training.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Like, honestly, if you're just doing 7-on-7 as your primary training tool, you've missed the boat. You missed the bulk of the off season. And I think there's a lot of kids that do that. Unfortunately, I think they've been lured into thinking that, like going to a quasi, skill practice or a quasi practice.
Well, it's an activity.
It's an activity, but the problem is when you need to sharpen your skill sets. If you listen to like what Michael Neese was saying last week, those skill sets that you need to work on are so important. And unfortunately, kids want to do the competitive side of things, like the competition phase, which is 7-on-7, right? You're going one-on-ones against each other, against the defense, you're throwing balls against, coverages. The problem is if you don't have the right, motor behaviors when you're running, if you don't have the right mode of, skill sets developed, they don't just magically happen by doing them more in competition. They magically happen by doing more of the mundane off-season work where you're just training and learning and developing those skill sets. So I think, listening to him last week, only reiterated the fact that you got to spend time and focus on the little stuff. I know it's fun to go do with your buddies up at the field and do one-on-ones or go out and do, a 2-on-2 or 3-on-3 game, which is great because you're having fun. You're building some athletic endurance. But man, if you have mistakes or you say you have throwing mechanic flaws, or the number of kids that we see that just really cannot catch the ball or really run routes well, right? They're just going to get eventually they're going to get pushed out of the game. It's just either that or they have to catch up. So.
Right. Yeah. I mean, 7-on-7 should be an add-on to skills training. If you want to improve your game, you need to do some form of training with a competent trainer or trainers.
Yes.
Because camp season's coming up. I know the KC Varsity Combine is coming up. Francis Howell, the inaugural one at Francis Howell, May 4th. I mean, it's on us. It is just 2.5 weeks out.
Yep.
Right. And if you want to find out more information about that, go to kcvarsitycombine.com. But it's coming up and it's boom, boom, boom. I mean, they're just hitting. Everything's hitting. Everybody, I know guys have been doing some spring practice with their teams.
Yes.
A little bit of light stuff, which is cool, which is good. So
it's interesting.
Along
Some
with
teams
the 7-on-7
do it.
should be, add-ons what you're doing because it's nothing really, really intense. That's coming up.
Yeah.
That's right around the corner at the end of May.
And some teams are doing 7-on-7. Some teams are doing practices. Some kids are still doing their 7-on-7.
7-on-7.
Yeah. Yeah, some teams are.
This is has a pretty good 7-on-7.
Yeah, and I think that's all organized by what their team, or the coach or the parent of a child. But I think, it's nice that there are teams doing, spring football. I think it's a really good add-on to our area. I think It's still teams are still trying to figure out it. I do know multiple teams that did it last year that struggled to get the attendance right within the mix of days. And then they opted out of it this year.
Seeing more teams doing it this year.
Yeah, there's definitely teams doing it. So, but it is interesting because you're still battling the other sports because we want kids playing other sports and doing, rounding their athletic skills out. But it is tough this day and age when you're, more and more specialized. When you look at all the other sports, the baseball players are very specialized. Football seems to be the one sport where they talk about being a multi-sport athlete. That's the one. You always hear guys, balking about, hey, you need to go run track or you got to go do something else. And the thing is why do they do that? Because the football players are typically the athletes that can really help their team.
Right. And it does help football players. If you're going to run track, you're going to do stuff like that, which is interesting because I get questions all the time. And a lot of guys are doing spring sports, track. So I know some guys that are doing track and baseball. And God bless. You got a heck of a schedule besides being a student.
Mm-hmm.
On top of that, and if you have any little part-time job or something, man, you're just, your schedule is rough. But I get asked all the time from people. In fact, I just had a few people ask me this week about, camps and combines coming up. Well, I have, my son has a track meet. My son has a baseball game. Should they skip that and go to the camp or the combine? And my thought on that is, well, is your son going to play baseball or run track in college?
Yep.
And if not, they want to go to the football camp or combine, especially when there's college coaches there.
Correct.
Because otherwise, what are you doing out on the baseball field, standing out in center field, if you're not going to play that sport, when you can help yourself and be on that path that you need to be on to be a college football player?
Right. And I think, as they start looking at like things that they should be doing as we get closer to the spring, and now we're in evaluation period, right? So it just started Monday?
Yeah, just started that. And
so
June 1st, the 2026 guys are going to get, really heavily recruited.
Yep. So yeah, they can't technically talk to anybody 26 and down, right? Down to 29s or 28s.
But they can't show up at school and
they can bump into you.
There you go.
Now, but the rule did change. They can only bump into you one time.
Correct.
So, I saw where a coach had tweeted out like, hey, look, you might want to start showing up to school and making sure you're there because if we miss you, we're not coming back. We can't.
Yep.
So, but I do think that like there's a lot of things people should be doing right now that they just don't quite get. And it goes back to something you were talking about earlier, finding the right people to be around. And so, something I was talking about someone earlier today, but about this and consistency wins the day, right? And finding a plan and then sticking with it and trusting the process. It really works, right? You look at a kid like a Brady Cook. We heard his story. You look at a kid like Michael Neese. We heard his story.
And if you didn't hear those stories, football360show.com, you're going to find it.
Right. But Brady Cook is a guy, he didn't bounce around. He wasn't bouncing from team to team when he was little. He wasn't bouncing from, trainer to trainer or facility to facility. He had a plan. He stuck to it. And there's a sense of loyalty. I forget the name of the basketball coach that just came out. I think, excuse me. It's the guy who just won the national championship, Coach Hurley at UConn. And he started talking about how they evaluate parents. And he's looking for people that don't make excuses for their kids, but he's also looking for people that are not like flip-flopping on things, that are loyal to the process. And because he's found that those people, the kids that bounce 4 to 5 schools, or the guys that are bouncing from this coach and this team in the offseason to this team and this trainer to this trainer, those attributes follow them into school, right? It's one thing to kind of broaden your horizons and kind of get out and find new things. It's another thing that when you have people that you're around that you can trust and you're listening to them and and you see a pathway of success, but you know better. Right. Those are the ones that are really, I hate to say it, the game will pass them by. They'll be upset that they didn't get to the level they were supposed to get at. But at some point, like a person like myself, Of course, I would never disparage or damage a kid like that. But if someone asked me a realistic appraisal, I do know that people that bounce around and don't stick to the plan are not going to be successful long term. They're just not, right? And to be a consistent performer, you have to do the little things over and over and over. It is not the next shiny object over here or over there, because quite honestly, usually those shiny objects are trying to get you to come to them because they need you, right? And they're trying to build off of you. Problem is, if they don't have that experience or they have not done that, and that could be a team, that could be a coach, that could be another high school, right? I mean, it could be a whole host of things where if you are not very secure in what you're doing and why you're doing it, and you're chasing it for the wrong reasons, it becomes a very slippery slope. And we've seen it, you and I, we could count through the names, right? And I look back, personally as a quarterback trainer, the number of kids over the years that would go dark, and then we wouldn't see him for a while, and then you're like, oh, he found a guy that he's gonna, he trained with the guy that played in college, or he's training with on the, wherever, they're going out of town to do something. I can count on one hand how many of those guys realistically ever did anything that they thought they were gonna. How about that? And maybe one or two guys. I mean, it's that small of a number, because once you start jumping around, if you don't have a plan and you don't have coaches in your corner helping you guide through that process, you're on your own. You think you have the answers, and then what's your next resource? The internet?
Yeah.
See how that works.
There's a lot of guys that do that. I mean, it's one thing if you're not compatible with who you show up to train with,
correct,
or you don't like what's going on, or there's a schedule. It's something totally else when you have guys coming at you from all sides saying, hey, I know you do this, but I'm the one, I'm the guy, I'm the man. I can do this for you. I can do that for you. A lot of empty promises out there. And there's a lot of guys that like to glom on, and I see it all the time. I've seen it way too much of people trying to glom on and pilfer, just all across whatever it is football wise that there is, whether it is schools, whether it is trainers, whether it is media people. Everybody wants to glom on to the other guy's thing, especially if the guy is successful at what he's doing, because that guy draws the talent. That
right.
School draws the talent. So you have that sort of thing going on all the time.
Yeah, and it's tough because parents don't really know, but that's why we're doing this show, because we want to bring real world guests on that can explain their story and give you an idea of what's going on. And we also want to give our insight, right? 25 years doing this. I know you're in the same number of years. I mean, we've been doing this a long time, and the unfortunate truth is that you learn a lot of the pitfalls over time, right? And that, whether that's coaching, whether that's helping with recruiting, whether that's just how to navigate, the coach-parent relationship along with the player. There's a lot to all of this, and I think people, they see the end goal, but they forget all the day-to-day just showing up, and doing the mundane work, right? And so I was listening earlier today, Michael Chandler, who's a fighter who's normal. He's a Mizzou guy, local guy. I guess he's fighting Conor McGregor, but he was talking to Andy Frisella, who owns First Form, on his show, and it's a good show to listen to because he's got relevant topics that they talk about. But they were talking about being successful in business and being successful in the fight game, and it's not that much fun. It's just showing up and having a consistency, loyalty to the process and those around you. I mean,
discipline,
and everybody looks for this easy fix, and there's no easy fix. At the end of the day, the reality of it is if you can work yourself into it, if you have the base underlying ability, or your body grows into it, right? I mean, that there are some things that play into it, but how do you grow into it? Well, if you have a youth player, a middle school player, it comes down to sleeping, comes down to diet, right? As far as growth, there's things that you can be doing that definitely will help you, meet your maximum height and size. And then if you're a high school athlete, that's sleeping and the discipline of sleeping, eating right, hydrating, training, supplementing, all those things are super important to your success physically, right? And then those things help you jump to the front of the line if you've put in the work. Now, if you're the 5'4", 5'5" guy that never grew, go be an ultimate fighter like Mike Chandler. Yeah, like go do something different, maybe, because footballs might not be the sport for you, but high school football certainly could be a sport for you.
Absolutely.
That's the beauty of high school football.
Right.
You need all sizes, all shapes, all different demeanors. Everybody can't be aggressive, right? You have to have level-head guys on offense. You have to have aggressive guys on defense.
Right.
It's the
And
beauty of
I wouldn't
football.
write you off just because you're 5'5",
Yeah.
5'4". I mean, there's a lot of schools out there. It might not, you're not going to be an FBS player, most
Correct.
likely, unless you're just incredibly gifted athlete.
Darren Sproles.
Correct. But yeah, I wouldn't write that off. But you're absolutely right in those regards.
Yeah. So, I think though the off season is, as we start to kind of wind down and start get closer to the season, those that have been doing the day in and day out work are going to be easily seen by coaches, and those who have not been doing it are going to be easily overlooked by coaches. And it really comes down to that, because yes, there are natural outliers that are good athletes, and there's certain attributes that guys look for that sure they're going to go, oh, that kid looks really good. But if they can find another guy that looks similar to you, that has more technique and is more well-rounded, they're going for that guy.
Yeah.
They have to.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
They have to. They'll kind of develop you.
Yeah. Especially now. I mean, it is really a game now to where if you do not produce, if you do not show them something within the first couple of years, you're gone. And now they don't mind asking you to leave. Right?
No, that's going on as we speak.
Yeah. Now they don't, they'll give you a couple of years. If you don't show them something within the first 2 years, I mean, back in the day, they would hold a guy, they'd let him, be there for 5 years.
As long as he showed up.
As long as he showed up, did his thing, he could be there for 5 years, get his degree if he was so inclined. Now, within a couple of years, that's where you see the transfer portal. I'm seeing guys and I'm like, wow, that's crazy. I mean, every day it's like, wow, he's leaving there. Wow, he's leaving there.
And a lot of them are being asked to leave.
Correct.
And so, but the flip side of that is put yourself in the college football coach's shoes. Okay, do we want to spend all this time, energy, and money developing a kid for 2 years who's only going to be disgruntled and most likely leave anyway, so that we're going to develop them so he can leave and go somewhere else?
Well,
I mean,
yeah, there's that. And now you have the NIL
right.
factor to where guys are coming in. And I'm talking about guys who have not even played a down, and they're asking for raises every year, right? Because they might have been a high level recruit or considered one of their best recruits, and they want to go in and renegotiate every year.
Yeah.
They want to go from maybe being a so-so guy or arriving on campus and getting nothing or $10,000 a year. Now, they go up. Inflation.
That's $100,000.
That was 100,000. Absolutely. And I've seen that. I know that with some guys, and it's like, wow, they asked for what? Well, that's kind of crazy, but if they can get it,
they can get it. And so, but the thing is when you get it, if you don't produce, it's even more pressure to get your butt out the door.
Absolutely.
Because they need to free that money up and put someone in there that can produce. And so it's a free market.
It's
right?
a business. It is a business. It is semi-pro football.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Right. I would argue in some, like the way that they're talking about this new super conference.
That's
like
pro.
The way that it's going to be is going to be, that's it. It literally will be competing with the NFL. The USFL or whatever it is, or the UFL now will just pretty much, I mean, yes, it's spring football, but that intermediary league pretty much, I don't know how it will exist when you have college football, this new iteration, if they do the super conference. And then they would have, I forgot exactly what they call it, but they'd have a system designed where the bottom teams are either playing so they get relegated down, or they can get promoted up like they do over in England, in Europe with soccer.
Right.
And so like you can, say you're the Montana State or wherever, like you can definitely, if you rise, you're good, or you can be relegated to the D League for years. Right. And so I do think it's really interesting to see how that works. And if that does happen, let's be honest, the NCAA is gone. The NCAA will be, as we know it is, will be gone.
Right.
So, and they will not be able to service the other sports like they do today, because the only reason they're able to is because they get the money from football and basketball. So it should be really interesting to see how that plays out.
I mean, you're seeing that already. You're seeing schools drop sports like crazy because, I mean, it's great in theory to have, but somebody's got to pay for that. And with all the extra money having to go towards football, especially if you jump from, whatever to being a D1 school, all of a sudden you've got to play with the big boys. You need that extra money. So guess what? You can't afford to fund this sport because you need that money because now you're a D1 football school.
And the costs are substantial. You think about
Yeah.
flying a team of, a traveling squad cross country, putting them up in hotels.
Yeah.
It's not cheap. Feeding them, where's that money coming from? Not TV.
No.
So the FCS level teams really, their budgets are different recruiting wise. The pay to their coaches is different, right? And so, but those guys that do well at that level, you're at Sacramento State, now you're at Stanford,
right?
Stuff like that. It happens,
right? And that's why you'll see a Sacramento State or whoever decide, okay, well, we'll go play at Alabama for $400,000 or whatever it is, which is a substantial chunk for their athletic department, and just be fodder.
Right.
That's why you see those cupcake games like that.
Yeah. So, and if they do this new Super League, then everybody playing in the upper level will be playing each other and then living off the TV deal. And it'll be a whole different, and it will probably, I hate to say it, suffocate those lower level schools.
Yep.
And how are they ever going to rise? Because what's going to pay for them to be able to compete with those guys that are being funded? So it basically is a, self-fulfilling prophecy. You'll have the Super League and everybody else.
Club sports.
Yeah.
Club football.
Yeah. So, yeah, but I think kids have to, this time of year, really start to a good idea would be start to resend a lot of your film out, because names are getting populated for people. You'll see guys come to Lindenwood camp and they'll have a list of names that they're looking for and looking at, right? Because they get a published list of those guys before the camp and they see who signed up, and then they are looking through them and they've cross-checked who their important, people are, or people they want to keep their eyes on, right? But I can tell you firsthand, being there on the field, we talk to coaches constantly about it and tell them what we're, who's who. And that is definitely an advantage. Kids on our that we know are definitely getting talked to, because we can. I don't if there's someone there I don't know who they are, I can go certainly ask them or look them up in the system. But if it's a kid we know, you can give them firsthand knowledge and stories about who they are and what they do. But I'm not going to do that, and I know you're not going to do it to guys that don't work. I mean, I'm not what would I? I'm not going to certainly tell them they don't.
That's just going to make you look bad.
Right.
That's the thing. You're not going to recommend people. You have to show up. You have to take advantage of your opportunities. I just tweeted out the other day about the KC Varsity Combine happening in Howell on the 4th. I'm like, take advantage of your opportunities. And there's so many kids still who will be like, I'll look into it. Really? You'll look into it? Well, you're going to be looking into college football from your
as
TV
a fan,
screen.
as a
right.
fan.
Yeah,
certainly
looking into it like that. If you're, you can't be bothered. And the thing that really ticks me off is when I see somebody who has the potential and they just piss it away. Absolutely just piss it away. And I'm talking about, you're talking about a guy who's 6'6", 6'5", 290 pounds, who's athletic. Can't be bothered to come show up to train, can't be bothered to go. They have people surrounding them. They have a good support system, and they still will not do what they need to do.
So, yeah, I was, having a conversation with the guy the other day. He'd asked me about alignment on his team, and I said, to be real honest, we have not seen him.
Yeah.
And the dad was really perplexed, why? He's trained since he's been a little kid. It just started really turning the corner, and his body's filling out. Last year was his first year as a varsity starter, as an underclassman. And so the dad asked, what have you been doing? Oh, he's really busy. Yeah, he's working now. He's got a lot of things going on, but he's going to Lindenwood. And he's signed up to do NCSA or something along that line. Hey, if you're going to have that work ethic, you don't need NCSA. You don't need anybody to help you. You're probably going to the lowest level you can find, right? Because you got size. But the reality of it is if you don't work at it, it's the same as a guy that trains I mean, you'll see this all the time. You'll see a kid as a junior that trains his butt off to get his offers, and then has a good senior year, gets some offers, and then they stop training. Like as if now they've mastered it enough because they trained and got an offer and been validated by the school. Now they get committed to a school, and now they don't need to train anymore. They're just going to run and just kind of get ready for the season, and then leave and go up and do that. And they don't realize what got them there is the fact that they were training and kept their skills sharp, and someone acknowledged that. Now you got to get to school, and those schools are looking for those skill sets to be evolved. They don't want them to be high school level. They want them to be college level.
Right.
And so that's where it becomes really tricky. And I will tell you, I've said it before, to me, it's the kiss of death. A kid starts getting offers and we see him stop training, that it's over.
Right.
Like they don't realize it, right? And we could go through the list of guys. I mean, it is, and again, it's hard when people are telling you how great you are and what a stud you are, right? But Coach Gage, who's been on the show with us numerous times, 8-year NFL veteran, Mizzou Hall of Famer, he's coaching high school football, and he's like, you'd be shocked the number of kids that just do not want to listen to advice on things that I know can help them. And I'm like, well, of course, right? And so, he trains lots of kids at the facility, which it's a different environment because they want to be there most of the time, right? They're in high school. Hopefully no one's forcing them to be there. But he's perplexed, because kids don't want to listen to, tried and true advice of someone that's been there, or listen to tried and true advice of someone who's helped numerous people get there. I mean, I don't know what that is. And I think some of it's just being bullheaded as a young male sometimes, like we all were, but you gotta humble yourself.
Yeah.
You gotta humble yourself. And sometimes though, the parents are the ones that kind of get in the way of it too, as well, because they want something so bad for their kid that their kid quite honestly might be showing them exhibiting behaviors that they might not be on the same page.
Yeah.
Right. Or maybe their kid does want to do it, but they're a little scared to put themselves out there, right? And some people in this day and age, because of social media, are scared to death to make an error. Scared to death because it'll haunt them, because people will use it against them for an infinite amount of time, right? And so, we live in a world where, it is okay to make mistakes. It's okay to screw up, but you want to err in screwing up on the field so you can then learn how to correct it and err in the practice realm, right? So that you can correct it. So I just, it's really tough to watch sometimes because people are so close, but they're really far away. Their behaviors and attitudes towards it, that flippant attitude of like, oh, I think, maybe I'll see if I can go. Well, if you don't have a school event that you got to be at, or you're out of town, other than that, then why wouldn't you do it? But we have the same thing in the winter with the elite football combine. Same thing. I think I can make it. Or they sign up the day before, which tells you they weren't even thinking about it. It's just something else to do.
You rarely see a guy who signs up the day before come in and do well. I will say that. On the flip side of what we're talking about, there were guys who will not, they'll get a few offers. You have a Corey Sims, who I see is just in there training hard.
He was in last night training.
Yeah, trying to get better, putting in the work. And you're talking about a guy who has offers from USC. I think he has one from Georgia. He has them from, coast to coast. He has offers, and he's in there because he wants to be the best. He was just down in Nashville and won an MVP, I think, for receivers.
Yep.
At that UC report thing. I mean, he didn't have to go to that. I know they give him a little swag and some stuff, and it looks good. And, he wants to compete hard. But you have guys like him. You have guys like Carvon Jefferson. Tristan Abram is another guy who, just keeps coming, just keeps working. Charles Brooks, those are two guys who,
they grind.
Charles is already committed.
Yeah.
Right? And he grinds. Tristan.
Yeah. See, those are when you see that attribute, when you see somebody committed or with a bunch of offers and they keep working, those guys do really well because
wanting to prove themselves. Because guess what? If they have offers, Brady Davidson, the other guy, if they have offers and they will still show up and work and compete, guess what? They're going to do that for whatever college they go to.
Nick McClellan, I saw him last night.
Same guy,
and he did really well at defensive back. He's an emerging guy. very, very talented.
He's hit another gear. He's hit
Yes.
another level.
He's
from
very
last year.
confident defensive back. I mean, we had him playing 7-on-7 a few weeks ago over in Indianapolis and had an unbelievable one-handed catch, interception, and then he had another game-winning interception.
He's the king of the
Yes.
one-handed catches, one-handed interceptions.
But I was talking to him, and he said that Brady Davidson, he's like, man, it wasn't even close. He was the best quarterback there. Not even close.
It's ridiculous. Brady was at the elite combines,
Yeah.
you know. So was Nick, you know.
Yeah. Yep.
It's I mean, they just kill it, and then they'll do the 7-on-7, and they'll go to whatever. You know, whatever they're invited to, they go because they just continually want to.
I think Brady was just at a combine a few weeks ago because he couldn't come to 7-on-7. He went to Indianapolis, and the following weekend he was in, or the weekend before, I believe he was in Vegas at the Polynesian Bowl combine, and he was the MVP quarterback there.
Of course.
So, but you start to paint a picture, right? Guys like that, you know, sometimes the political side of things, you know, where you're the Elite 11s, things like that, where maybe they don't know who he is and he isn't like kind of slotted to be in that group because he doesn't have big enough offers.
Right.
You know, I think guys like him will get to college and do really well. Like in that whole class, you got Carson Boyd, you got Dylan Duff, you got Brady Davidson, Hoyt Gregory,
Dakari Hollis.
We
went over. You have 6 or 7.
Preston.
Brown, Hillman Martin over in Kansas City. You have about
Jason Wiley at East St. Louis. Yeah. It's a good crew of guys.
Incredible, best ever in the area, in the region. Just absolute best ever. Nothing like it before.
Yeah, really. I've never. Yeah, and it's interesting. They all come in and train, but so I think people need to take a hard look though in the recruiting process to see what they're doing, because a lot of people are disenfranchised when it's all said and done. Like, oh well, this guy didn't do this guy didn't do that. And believe me, I have firsthand knowledge of situations that if my child was involved in, I would be pretty upset with coaches not giving kids letters, coaches not letting kids talk to schools when they come to school, things like that, which is I think is really problematic. But on the flip side, you know, being proactive, you should be sending your film out to colleges, getting your hands in the film of not necessarily the position coach, the GAs and analysts are the guys that watch the film first. So you got to send your emails to those guys far and wide. You know, DM them on Twitter and as well as send emails, because they are tasked with finding new guys constantly for their position coach to evaluate. And then if the position coach likes it, then it goes up the chain. And, you know, and do yourself a favor, get around someone that can help you with your highlight film, right? You know, how you sequence your film makes a huge difference. What it looks like makes a big difference, because if it's not sequenced properly, they see so many films that there's nothing that's going to stand out that makes them want to watch further, right? And so there's so many things, little tips and tricks you can do. Obviously, you have to have good plays. You have to have good film. If you have dog crap film, then, you know, we can't really make it look that good. But for the most part, you know, you should wow them in the first 5 plays. And if you can't do that, then you got to get back to the drawing board.
Right. Exactly.
Right. I don't know. I see so many little mistakes that are made. And then the default answer is to spend more money. You know, spend more money, and that typically is not a good idea.
When you say get around someone who can help you, beware, because there's a lot of people out there on social media and the internet who want to try to market you, or they can help you, or they can do this. It's very simple. You hit the nail on the head. It's very simple. Put your best play first, and then work backwards from your best to your. You know, you're not going to put your worst play on there, but you know what I'm saying. Start with your best and then work backwards. Second best play, third best play. Because if it's not at the first 2 plays, they will move on. They will absolutely move on. And it's not even like you said, you know, you're not having the position coach even look at it. You're having a staffer, you know, somebody who's a GA who's there, who's looking at it. So you want to do that, put your best foot forward. Be proactive, send it out to all the schools. Don't just, you know, marry yourself to, oh, I'm a FBS player, I'm going to just send it to those schools. Send it to all schools, because wherever you get to play is wherever you get to play, and take advantage of that situation. And then be proactive on your social media. Reach out to these guys, follow these guys, tell them that you're interested in it. But on your profiles, on all your social media, put your name in it. Put your actual name. Don't put, Lil anything, Lil
Easy money.
easy money, big time gamer.
Yeah.
No. Put your actual name on there, and how to reach you so that you're easy to find. And also open up your DMs. If you're going to be a football player and you want to take recruitment, then you need to open them up. And don't check your settings on your social media. Don't make it so that they have to be verified. I mean, a lot of them are, some of them aren't. But that's the one lament I hear from coaches all the time is like, I can't find this guy. I can't talk to him because, the DMs are shut down. Those are little small things, whether it's
Well, I got another real small thing.
and then put your huddle link on your actual social media. So your name, open your DMs, put your link, and be proactive.
And you're a big boy, you have email. You need to put your email because a lot of communications with adults come through email. Believe it or not, that's not all social media.
Right.
Open your email, check it. Okay. Another tip would be
Put your email on your social
put
media.
your email. Do not use your school email.
No.
And the reason being is school emails filter out a lot of outside stuff, right? A lot of outside emails.
Right.
So use a Gmail, use a Yahoo, whatever you got. Make your own email with your name. Keep it another way to put your name in it, and make sure that email is being monitored, right? Because and the other thing is over the years I've seen where parents, are the ones controlling the social media or the emails, and it's obvious, right? So yes, you can proofread it and check it for your son, but at the same time, it does need to be authentic. It doesn't need to be written by ChatGPT for it to sound official. The reality of it is that they deal with high school kids all day long and college kids, and they know what they sound like, right? But it's also be nice to clean up the grammar a little bit, but also make sure you are checking your emails. They send tickets through there. They send other correspondence, questionnaires through there. There's a lot of things that get done through email that are not tied to Twitter, right? A lot of base communication starts on Twitter, but more serious communication can be done online, through the email systems.
With coaches are relying so heavily on social media now that you want to put those, other ways to contact you on that so that they can, once they do find you, then they can email you right away.
Mm-hmm.
If they can't DM you, they can send you junior day invites, camp invites, all that kind of stuff through the email. There's a lot of stuff like that, just the little things, but you're a brand. Right?
You are a brand.
If you want to play college football, you are a brand, especially in today's professional football world, which is what college has gone with the, in the NIL world. You're a brand. So treat yourself. You're a small business person. Your parents can help you. If you had a little lawn mowing business, your parents might help you with that. Help you make some flyers, go around to the neighborhood. Think of it as that way. Instead of just, having a lawn service where you're mowing the neighbors' yards, you have a little football service that you're providing.
So say you're a class that you're at the St. Louis Football Coaches Association Combine on the 13th of May. It's done on a Monday night after the vast majority of spring sports are wrapped. College coaches can be there. It's on a high school campus.
Track goes on forever.
Yeah, true. So, but they shouldn't. Yeah, hopefully they're done by that.
Right. Hopefully you don't have to meet. Yeah.
So you're on the field. You're a class of 2028 guy, right? They're not supposed to talk to you or initiate the conversation. But if you initiate and bump into them, they can be cordial and talk back to you.
Yep.
Right.
Be proactive.
So should you be talking to coaches? Yes. What do you say to them? Well, you introduce yourself. You tell them who you are, what you're doing. Do you ask something about their school, whatever it might be? You're at Lindenwood camp. You're at KC Varsity Combine. Communicate with coaches. Don't be the guy that's going around and being real cheesy with it, but communicate with them. Be there, eye contact, shake their hand, right?
Be professional.
Be professional because they are there trying to figure out who is who, right? And they are looking at guys that this is how they put food on their table. Unless you are some beyond freakish athlete, which there's very few of those. And those guys, let's right or wrong, coaches make some exceptions for guys like that because they are game changers for them sometimes.
Right.
But the vast majority of guys playing college football all kind of fit in the same bucket at their position group. They're looking for guys that aren't going to get them burned and get them fired. They're looking for guys that follow directions, guys that they can trust. It goes back to the loyalty thing, right? If you have a guy who's like, oh, yeah, that dude trained with everybody in town, okay? There is a component of that, yes, you could be well-rounding your game. I get it. I get where you're coming from. But if the base of your motive for doing that is that you just don't want to miss out on something, that means you don't trust in what you're doing in the process of what you've gotten yourself into. And you're going to have, I hate to say it, in the transfer portal era, you're going to be a guy after your first season probably looking for another school. Yeah. And we've seen it happen time and time again.
You don't want to be flighty. You don't want to be irresponsible, right? Those are two kisses of death right there. There are guys who, and I know you know it too. They're like, hey, I want to come into elite. I want to train, and they never show up. And I'm not talking about once or twice because that's excusable. There are guys who will say, hey, 5, 6, a dozen times, I'm going to come in and train. I'm going to come in and train. Never see them.
Or they come in and train, have someone film them.
Yeah.
And then you don't see them because that was just their experience. They wanted to get that and put it online, show everybody they were working.
Right.
And then regurgitate it for, months on end. And the problem is you're not fooling anybody, right? Because, when coaches come in and sit down, we have coaches stop by the facility all the time and they want to talk about who's who, right? Well, I can tell you guys that I don't know that I can't put my name on. I'm not going to bring them up, right? I mean, why would you?
Yeah.
Right. But on the flip side of it, if I do know somebody that I've been around, I am going to be able to tell firsthand knowledge about who that person is, what they do, But like one of the things I always tell guys as a coach, as like a high school coach, the best person you can impress is the coach on the opposing sideline. Your coach knows who you are, right? I think it's a great habit to always shake the hand of the head coach and of the opposite team.
Yeah.
And introduce yourself to them, let them know who you are.
Yeah.
And
what's best is when you see the head coach single out an opposing player and go up, they want to shake your hand.
Yeah, because if that coach gives your name to a school, it means probably more than it coming from your coach who has a little bias to it.
They do it all the time.
Yeah.
They do it all the time because when they come in, they sit down in the office and they want to talk, they start shooting the stuff and they talk about a wide variety of things. Hey, who are some of the guys that you've played that and so they'll start off with that.
But if you're a jerk and you're a guy that's a poor competitor, that is talking smack the entire game towards their sideline.
Tell them that too.
Yeah, they're not. I mean, there's not
get that rep.
A lot of that stuff happens, and people get really upset by it. And the truth of it is if you carry yourself as a logical human being versus just playing pure off of emotion, right? Which a lot of people get caught in, right? I just, being around young guys for so long, I will say the trend is moving a lot more towards. When something doesn't go right, it's someone else's fault.
Oh,
it happens constantly.
I've seen way too many kids quit mid-game. I'm talking about throw their helmet down and walk off the field, and they quit. And it's just blowing my mind, in recent years to see that happen.
So I had a young man at 7-on-7 who made a mistake on a play, whatever. So I said something to him when he came off, and it was more of like hey, I wasn't coaching his team. I just said, hey, in that scenario, third and short, you should be looking for the ball, especially when the quarterback thinks you're his top guy.
Mm-hmm.
You got to always have that mindset of the ball's coming your way. And he's a young guy. He's in middle school. And he said, Coach, please don't critique me right now. And of course, I lost that. When I heard that, it really ticked me off because it's not critiquing. It's teaching.
It's coaching.
It's coaching.
Yeah.
And you're going to be coached hard. And so I told him, I said, hey, look, I've done this 25 years. I have more guys that have been drafted in the first round that we've been associated with and guys playing in the NFL actively than years you've been on this earth. Okay. I know what I'm talking about. I'm trying to help you, but if you don't want to be helped, I promise you, I don't need to help you.
Right.
Right. But if you want to be helped and you want to listen and be coached, I'm going to tell you exactly what you should do in that scenario next time it presents itself. So you could see he was emotional, kind of got a little tear or so in his eyes. And then he swallowed his pride and he said, you know what? You're right. My bad. And I thought, hey, so then we circled back by an hour later. I saw him after, and he was smiling, like, like the emotion had kind of boiled down. Because I know when young athletes, you know how it is. I mean, they're especially young boys, like middle school age, they're trying to find themselves, right? He's more worried about the situation that happened. I could care less about that situation. No one was mad about it. It wasn't that big of a deal. They went on and won it anyway. It was more the situation of learning about next time what the solutions are, right? The other thing is too, JP, I am shocked the number of kids that have very little knowledge of the actual game of football. Like it is really hard to fathom. Like simple things like coverages. It is mind blowing. I mean, and you go, oh, that's their system, and this, and everybody runs their own system. No, there are base coverages that go from the top of the game all the way to the bottom of the game. Okay. The fact that guys don't know that, guys don't know how many people are actually on the field. Guys don't know what holding is. Guys don't know what pass interference technically is. I mean, it goes both ways. Some of the referees don't know either. But there's a lot to the game. And so a suggestion I make to our players all the time is, how many of you guys have read the rule book?
Yeah.
None of them have read the rule book. I would suspect a lot of high school coaches haven't read the rule book. And I know a lot of middle school coaches have not read the rule book. And I'd be willing to bet you a good number of the referees at the lower levels have not read the rule book, because everybody knows the game of football that they watch on TV as a fan, but they don't necessarily know it as the actual game, the strategic game that's written and governed by a group of rules, right? And obviously there's interpretations on all the rules and things like that. That's why you got to get in and read the book. There's interpretation books that talk about scenarios and what you can do. For instance, last year we were in a game, in a middle school game. We kick an extra point, and I had a guy, I said to the referee, I said, hey, can you do me a favor? Can you tell your guy back there next time to watch? They went directly over our center right when he snapped the ball. And he looked at me and he said, dead serious. He goes, well, he can do that. And I was like, well, actually, no, he can't. And this guy's the head referee for this entire league. And so I said, you're kidding, right? You think he goes, well, he can't just keep his head down. I said, A, that's not in the rule book. B, that guy has to rush on either side of that in the A gaps. He has to make contact with the guy to the right or the left of the center and cannot come directly over that snapper. Just can't do it, right? On an extra point or field goal attempt. The fact that he did not know that rule, I actually went and got the rule book, showed him, and he got mad. He got mad. Of
course.
But why would you get mad on something that you should know? That's negligence. Like, that is pure negligence that you don't understand that rule. And as a coach, 9 times out of 10, most coaches are more concerned about not winning the game as far as how the rules are interpreted. Yes, it's usually a player safety thing. And so, like, if you're viewing it through the lens of player safety, I mean, someone going right over the top of snapping in the ball in 7th and 8th grade and 6th grade is hard enough. Having someone coming right over the top of that guy with his head down is downright dangerous. The fact that he didn't know that guy had to come on either side, he can come down he can go through the A gap either side, but he cannot come through the middle. So, it is what it is, but that happens. And so, everybody that's out there, if you say you want to play football at the highest level, maybe your off-season project should be read the rule book.
Yes, but at the same time, don't argue with the refs.
No.
Leave that to your coach. That's your coach's business. Again, something else I saw a lot of guys do, and especially last season, was argue with the referees.
We saw a ref knock someone out last year, remember?
Oh, yeah. And I mean, you will hurt your team, and I mean, you will hurt your team. You'll help your team lose if you do that. And that's the other thing. Control your emotions. I know it's, emotions are good, but you need to channel them the proper way if you're going to be an emotional player. Otherwise, you need to control them.
Correct.
That's a thing, and that's a good thing to learn at a young age, is how to control your emotions under pressure situations. Because I mean, that's what the sport is.
Right. And yeah, you got to control it, because if you can't
control it,
I mean,
channel that emotion.
yeah,
in the proper
put it in
way.
the game.
Be more cerebral. Channel it. You can be emotional and
don't
smart.
channel it into an excuse and blame
Logical.
someone else. Right. So, what would you do if you're a guy this age? So we're getting ready to go into camp season. Obviously, they need to be working out, training.
Yep.
Right. What are 2 to 3 steps that they should be doing leading up to these camps? In your opinion, like, camps and combines, really, that run from May through July?
Yeah. Number one, I would find who does combine skills training. And I would get in there, and you got to go to at least one so you can find out where you're at. And if they can help you get faster over these next few weeks before, KC Varsity or the St. Louis coaches, definitely Lindenwood. You've got over a month.
Yeah, we'll have a combine course at a least.
I was going to ask you that. I mean, there's it. I know on the KC side, there's guys who are running courses already, leading up to the KC Varsity combines. You definitely want to do that. You definitely want to train, make sure that your skills are there. I mean, those are the top 2 things. Make sure that your athleticism is where it is at your peak, that you know how to run in the events that are coming up, 40, vertical, broad jump, pro agility. And then you want your skill set to be done, because at all of these coming up, whether it's KC Varsity, the St. Louis Metro football, not only is there the testing aspect, but there's drills, and you can tell a lot, and the coaches look at guys in the drills, how they move, but there's also 7-on-7 and 3-on-3, especially at the KC Varsity, right? And in KC Varsity, there's a King of the Hill lineman challenge. Yeah, you better be on it. And the top guys, top 6 to 8 guys on offensive line and defensive line get in a circle. All the players get in a circle. It's really cool.
Yeah, I'm watching.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's exactly what it is. It's King of the Hill. It's a battle. It's a battle royal amongst those top guys, and the top guy gets a belt. So that's the thing. You want to make sure athletically you're peak, and skill wise you're peak.
Yep. And reaching out to those coaches and letting them know you're going to be there, right? And communicating who you are, what you're about. I think that makes a huge difference in having that icebreaker of a conversation of like, hey, coach, I texted you, or I DM'd you. Yeah, I'm happy to see you, whatever. It could be something as simple as that. And then a lot of times what they'll say, oh, how'd you do in your 40? Right? Especially if you're at Lindenwood, they'll be able to pull it up in the app and see, right? I will tell you a real world example. A guy last year I saw, or was it last year or year before, whatever it was. I saw a young man, 2 young men walk up to a couple coaches from an FCF level school. And it was hard to watch because like they talked and they asked the kid what he ran his 40 in. And he was a kid that was, I believe, offered or had committed to that school, to said school. And so they were shooting the breeze. They did not pull it up. They couldn't pull it up on their phone. So they said, hey, can you pull up this number? So I typed in his number. His name comes up. It shows his 2 attempts at the 40. And
they weren't what he said he was?
They weren't what anybody at that level runs. Mm-hmm. And he was a really good high school football player, which is what you and I talk about all the time. It is feasible to be a really good high school football player and not be a prospect.
Yes.
And because he fit great in the offense he ran, but it was 5+ as a running back.
Really?
So the 2 coaches are standing there, and the one looks at the other one and goes, you got a problem. And the other guy goes, yeah, that's a big problem.
Yep.
So, and to be honest with you, like there's so much going on at that time because there's, we're testing and getting everything going. A lot of moving parts. That early that week, I called his high school coach and just said, hey, I'm just letting you know what I witnessed. You might want to get out in front of this. And maybe you could do like a pro day style thing and retime him.
Yes.
You get it on film, because clearly he didn't run his best.
Right.
Right.
That's the absolute.
And so I wanted to just proactively make sure that the kid did not get burned. But at the same time, if he also is at a fit at that level, you don't want him. He probably doesn't need to be there anyway, right?
So did he wind up signing with that?
So he went somewhere else.
Okay. And
They ended up pulling the offer.
That happens more times than not.
Yeah.
You hear that.
And I don't know if that's the specific reason, but I would say that probably played into it because they have parameters. Like, you don't have to be the fastest, but you have to be within a certain range because they know what it looks like and they know
what, depending upon level, right?
Yeah.
Position wise, you have to run this. I tell kids all the time, when I see quarterbacks, I'm like, if you want to be a D1 quarterback, they all want you to run under 5.
Yes.
Right. So that's a goal you have to shoot for.
Correct.
The faster the better, obviously, but you don't have to be 4.445 guy, but they want you to run under certain things.
Hey, so speaking of speed, so we have a new, I'm not going to roll it out, tell the entire thing right now, but we have a new program that we're using in our facility. So much like our force plates, we now have a technology that we're going to be rolling out starting in May that basically when the kids come in and do their baseline testing or their training, it's the same size as the force plate, but it's for speed. So it captures your speed like at the 10, 20, 30, 40-yard mark. And then it has markers. It can then tell us how fast you are, obviously how fast miles per hour you're running, where the slowdown occurs, where the acceleration occurs, where the slowdown occurs, through like the entire process of the 40 or of sprinting. And then it then compares you in a national database of kids your age. And then we can see, and then it gives us programming and things that we should be working on with that athlete to help address the specific areas of their needs. So a lot of guys are good, like let's say they get good in the drive phase and they can get out pretty quick. Well, then they start to slow down as they get into like their, overdrive phase, right? So like then all of a sudden, they start to slow down, right? And then the sprinting is the war of attrition. It's whoever slows down the slowest is actually the fastest. Whoever slows down the fastest is the slowest, right? So it's that effect. And so we have a new set of technology that we're going to roll out beginning in May that'll for all of our speed training and development work that I think should be pretty cool. And I think a lot of kids will adapt and it should be really beneficial.
Yeah, I mean, that's awesome. And that's really what it's about. And to find out, and this is why when kids are like, oh, well, my parents don't want me to do this because I'm too young or I'm this, or they want me to wait till I'm a senior and then start doing combines. I mean, you need to find out where you are, and what trajectory you're on, because have you peaked? What do you need to work on? Mm-hmm. What do you need to better yourself at? Or otherwise you can be that guy who's a great high school football player and you're not going to get the college offers because you didn't know, well, I'm a great high school football player, but I'm this, and I need to be here. So if I work on this, I can become that. If you just go along and everything's good, that's how that happens.
So yeah, we've set ourselves up to where in our local landscape, there's a lot of good coaches and trainers and people in the strength side of things. But I will say if they're not actively measuring you, with a force plate or some apparatus that's similar, you're leaving stuff on the table. Yes. I mean, you are definitely, because people will and are using this technology to their benefit, and it's speeding it up. And as the AI starts to get into it, machine learning, and starts to kind of really tease out what you should be doing exactly, it is a competitive advantage that, say a kid takes a few months off or a kid takes a year off, in those formative years, and people are playing for, let's be honest, they're playing for money coming out of high school now. That was never the case. Yeah. So it's only going to get more competitive. But name another sport where your return on investment is as high as it is in football. To play travel basketball, you're spending thousands of dollars a year. To trade travel volleyball, thousands of dollars, right? Tens of thousands if you're playing hockey. Oh, right. Yeah. So, but the return on investment, I mean, soccer, I know a guy who told me his grandson's an All-American, right? At one of the MCC schools, All-American. He can't find anything other than a 25% scholarship. And we know how expensive college is.
Right.
I can tell you person after person who is a good football player that's playing at like a mid-level school that's on full rides, right?
Yes.
And so, and their investment level for football was under $3,000 their entire high school career. And they got plenty of training for that $3,000.
Yeah.
Big difference.
It is. And really, I mean, anybody who's going to train kids and try to help kids get better, God bless them. I'm all for it.
Yep.
But really what you're talking about is what separates you from somebody who's just going to have them do ladder drills or, show them little basic things, because what you're talking about, whether, with the technology, that's a whole nother level.
Yep.
That's a game changer.
It's a game changer. And here's the thing, either you do it or you don't. It's your choice. It doesn't really matter. At some point, though, somebody else is going to do it. And so, whatever gap might have existed that you thought you were better than can certainly be closed.
Right.
And unfortunately, sometimes it's too late, right? And so it happens. And so I hate to see it, but people get really complacent with the basic understanding of they're good on their team. And the game changes every time you level up.
It goes by fast. Don't miss out. You don't want to be that guy. Speaking of going by fast, another one in the books went by fast. Where can people reach you?
You reach us at Elite Football Academy on Instagram, and then on X, it's Elite Football.
All right. So that's how you get you.
And then Football 360 show for the show.
360 show as well. You can reach me at JP Rock MO on X and JP Rock Scout You on Instagram on the gram, which I need to step up my Instagram game. I'm lacking, and I know you complain.
I know. Hey, and next week we're going to talk more Lindenwood Mega Camp with Coach Jed Stugart, who
drop by, pop in.
Yep, had talk a little ball with him, and they're getting done with spring ball. So we've been talking to him since the fall about having him come on, and we wanted to kind of wait till spring ball was done and get him in about a month ahead of Lindenwood Mega Camp, which he's the namesake of the camp. So
absolutely, it's camp season. Do not miss out. KCVarsity-Combine.com. Is there a place they can go about the?
If you go to the St. Louis Football Metro Coaches Association, if you just go to elitefootball.net, scroll down on the first page, you can register. $60. So you'll be there 2.5 hours on a Monday night under the lights at DeSmet High School.
Good way to spend a Monday night.
Yes, sir.
Tuesdays, good way to spend your time is here with us. Until next week, we will talk to you soon. Stay safe. It looks like it's might be getting nasty outside weather-wise. Shock.
Springtime.
Enjoy the rest of your week. We'll talk to you soon. Stay safe.